Good morning, friends. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Savannah. My name is Abby Powell. We are working to build a diverse, multicultural, and beloved community. We celebrate the presence and participation of LGBTQI and straight people of all races, genders, abilities, and ethnic and national origins. We welcome you on YouTube, Zoom, and on-site, whoever you know yourself to be and wherever you are on your journey. If you're visiting with us and you would like to introduce yourself, we have a couple ways to do it. If you're newly joining us on Zoom or YouTube, please use the chat to say hi, and I will share with the congregation. If you're in the congregation this morning and would like to say hello, please rise or raise your hand, and Abigail will bring you a microphone. Are there any visitors with us over here on this side of the church? Anybody want to say hello?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nancy Calvalage. This is my son-in-law, Isaac, and my grandson Ellis is here. I'm visiting from Atlanta, and this is my first time to a Unitarian church. So I'm thrilled to be here, and just very nice to meet everyone.
Well, welcome. Anyone on this side of the church? Would you like to introduce yourself?
This is my friend Ansley, and she lives in Savannah, and this is her first time here, I think.
Welcome. Anyone else? I don't see any other hands, so it's great to have you all with us. Please join us in the fellowship hall for refreshments following the service. You can find the fellowship hall by exiting the main entrance and following the crowd, or you can go through that door and down the ramp. Or you can ask the ushers. I want to bring to your attention 2 cards in the pew back in front of you to help us gather information for the good of our community. You may use the rainbow chalice card, either the QR code or the space provided to write in your contact information. You can use that to sign up for our newsletter and to receive a welcome letter from our minister. Remote visitors may contact our administrator via email address in the chat. To share a joy or a sorrow, please use the card with the red heart and chalice. If you're on Zoom and YouTube, you may type joys and sorrows into the chat, and we will read them aloud in the service if you wish. If you fill out either of these cards, please put it in the collection plate a little later this morning. Our church announcements are emailed to members and friends on Tuesdays and Fridays. Check your email for complete details about the following announcements. Our first announcement, we have entered a time of discernment to call Rev Lisa as our settled minister. We are interested in your thoughts. There is an online survey, and small discussion groups are forming over the next few months. In fact, one of those meetings is already full, and there is still room for the November 13th meeting at 7 p.m., led by Nicole Flannery-Ray. Sign up is in Ron Hall. Stay posted as we organize more meetings in December. And we have an upcoming concert. J.J. Collins and Friends will be performing a special Sondheim concert next Sunday at 3 p.m. Oceana's Whale Week film screening of Saving the Right Whale will be held Tuesday evening, November 14th from 6 to 8 p.m. And then Green Team is organizing a tour of the Harambee House on Saturday, November 18th from 2:30 to 2 p.m. With the lighting of our chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, we enter into a sacred time. Our chalice lighter this morning is Jane Hoffman. We light this chalice in celebration of the sacred dance of life. Our chalice lighting reading is the Wendell Berry poem, The Larger Circle. We clasp the hands of those that go before us and the hands of those who come after us. We enter the little circle of each other's arms and the larger circle of lovers, whose hands are joined in a dance, and the larger circle of all creatures, passing in and out of life, who move also in a dance, to music so subtle and vast that no one hears it except in fragments.
The doctrine of the communion of saints is simple, really. All it says is that once you buy the farm, you still live on the farm. All it says is that those who have gone before us are still with us. All it says is that past generations still count and must be taken into account. In other words, we're all in this together, all of us. Will you please rise now in spirit or in body for our opening hymn, our hymn of the month, number 355, We Lift Our Hearts in Thanks. It's time for our story. Anyone who would like to see the pictures may come forward. Our story this morning is called Child of Fairy. Oh, Child of Fairy, Child of Earth. He was a child of fairy folk, a child of sky and air, and she was a child of humankind, of earth and toil and care. They met in the dusk of Hallows Eve, when widows grieve in widow's weave. They met on the dark of Hallows Eve. She had flowers in her hair. And where do you go, O child of earth? Oh, why do you wander here? Are you not afraid of the fairy race whose castles are so near? My mama says there's no such thing as fairy's wing and elfin ring. She says there's never been such a thing, and I should have no fear. He took her by her dirt-soiled hand and led her into his hall. He showed her brownies and bogles and sprites and elven folk and all. She ate the grass, she drank the dew, the fairies' brew of rainbow hue. She danced all night with the elven crew and didn't sleep at all. Oh, stay with me, dear human child, become a child of night. We'll dance between the hollow hills, be decked in candlelight, and ever after Halloween, clothed all in green, my fairy queen, you'll be the loveliest ever seen, the elven court's delight. She looked around the fairy hall beneath the hollow hill, and all the glamour round her spun to bend her to his will. But with a sigh she shook her head. That's not my bread and drink, she said. I cannot on your food be fed and still my needs fulfill. But since I've danced with you this night, this day you dance with me. She took him by his grass-green sleeve and led him over the lea. She led him down the farmyard road, past meadows mowed and gardens hoed. She led him over the human road, and full of awe was he. They stroked the cat, they milked the cow, they fed each chicken hen. He marveled at the sounds and smells of barn and yard and pen. He drank cold milk and ate brown bread. He made a bed, he cleaned a shed, he followed everywhere she led, then round about again. Oh, stay with me, dear fairy child, and live here on the land. We'll till the soil, we'll plow the field, we'll harvest hand in hand. The night is fair, but day is best, so be my guest, forget the rest. And on her suit she pressed with strong and sure demand. He looked around the human world, a world of gold and brown, a world where a farmyard turns to village, village into town. A world of colors pure and bright, of open sight, of warm sunlight, unlike the shadowed world of night, of moon and thistledown. He thought about the fairy hall, the fairy queens and kings. He thought about the cold, cold stars that shone on fairy rings. I miss my own, I cannot stay. You work, I play. I must away. I'll keep the night and you the day. He stretched translucent wings. Oh, wait, she cried to him. At least a gift I'll give, reminding you that here above is where a friend does live. And through the daylight world again, past denizen of barn and pen, she tracked past horse and cow and hen to find a gift to give. At last she found a fresh hen's egg, a gift from humankind, so he'd remember earth and toil when he'd left both behind. Then in return he touched the shell, and with a spell of fare thee well, extracted from that fragile shell a feather to remind. I give you this that comes from that, the fairy child replied. That egg and feather both shall serve as token and as guide, that we may both go arm in arm and fear no harm, nor take alarm when visiting in hall or farm or other lands beside. The gifts exchanged, they each went back to homes they loved full well, but now and then they visited, helped by a fairy spell. And though the years flew quickly past, they were friends fast from first to last, which left all skeptics flabbergasted at how they did so well. So if one lucky Hallows Eve you hear the night birds sing, and see a child of fairy guise with bright and gauzy wing, a flutter in the moonlight glade, and all arrayed in silver shade, be bold, be brave, be unafraid, and join that fairy ring. Thank you for listening. We will sing you on your way to our Eve.
This is the church of the open mind, the helping hands, and the loving heart. Generosity is aligned with our church's values. When we practice giving to the church, blessings flow in both directions. To donate via debit or credit card, please use the QR code on the back of the order of service, or you can go to our website and click the donate button. Mailed checks are also welcomed. We thank you for your generosity. We have several joys and sorrows today. We have a sorrow from Kevin about the dysfunctional and tragic cycle of slaughter in Gaza. We have one from Diane Hutter, prayers for Eileen Huber as she has her second back surgery this week. We have a joy from Roger Steves. Martha Weaver celebrated her birthday on November the 2nd. Happy birthday. And I have a joy. My dad is visiting today. He's sitting in our congregation. Let us hold all of our joys and sorrows, spoken and unspoken, in our hearts as we join together in the responsive reading found in your order of service. Sorrow is everywhere.
Yet joy is reborn.
As we mourn together,
So we celebrate together.
And offer thanks.
That we are not alone.
So may it be, now and in all the days to come.
Let us continue on in a spirit of meditation. We bruise so easily, dwelling on a planet that is dying from our actions and from our inactions, witnessing war from a distance that should afford us safety but does not, neither for our hearts nor for all our bodies. Living with the uncertainties and dangers of a government unable and unwilling to govern. Adjusting still, yes, still to lives completely refigured by a pandemic. Our psyches are fragile, our nerves frayed, our immune systems weakened, our doubts magnified, and our prejudices, opinions, and conclusions barely contained, our defenses both battered and reinforced, our best selves hard to access. We bruise so easily, slighted by others, slighting others. Without intention, without understanding, without empathy, bruised and in need of healing, bruising and in need of forgiveness. Let us become still now and return to stillness often. Slow our breath, slow our speaking, slow our reactions. In the space we thus give ourselves and one another, may we feel calm descending, hear hope whispering, sense the germination of peace, and come at last, if only for a moment, into the fullness of our best selves and the expansiveness of our love for those with whom we share our lives. Amen. Our first reading this morning from May Sarton, All Souls. Did someone say that there would be an end, oh, an end to love and mourning? What has once been so interwoven cannot be raveled, nor the gift ungiven. Now the dead move through all of us still glowing. Mother and child, lover and lover mated, are wound and bound together and enflowing. What has been plaited cannot be unplaited, only the strands grow richer with each loss, and memory makes kings and queens of us. Dark into light, light into darkness spin. When all the birds have flown to some real haven, we who find shelter in the warmth within listen and feel new cherished, new forgiven, as the lost human voices speak through us and blend our complex love, our mourning without end. And from Francis Bellerby, All Souls Day. Let's go our old way by the stream and kick the leaves as we always did to make the rhythm of breaking waves. This day draws no breath, shows no color anywhere except for the leaves, in their death brilliant as never before. Yellow of brimstone butterfly, brown of oak egger moth, you'd say. And I'd be wondering why a summer never seems lost if two have been together witnessing the variousness of light. And the same two in lusterless November enter the year's night. The slow worm stream, how still. Above that spider's unguarded door, look, dull pearls. Time's full, brimming, can hold no more. Next moment, we know well, my darling, you and I, what the small day cannot hold must spill into eternity. So perhaps we should move cat soft meanwhile and leave everything unsaid until no shadow of risk can be left of disturbing the scatheless dead. Ah, but you were always leaf light, and you so seldom talk as we go. But there at my side through the bright leaves you walk, and yet touch my hand, that I might be quite without fear, for it seems as if a mist descends and the leaves where you walk do not stir. Here end the readings. Our hymn is in the Teal Supplement, number 1001, Breaths.
Send more orphans to
If it's on Facebook, it's true. So settle in, because with the ending of daylight savings time last night, I get an extra hour to preach today. All humans want to do is break down every barrier. That's been our great success story. But death is the hard boundary. It's the barrier that everybody on this planet will meet at some point in their life, no matter how wealthy they are, no matter who they are, no matter what their achievements. You know that's coming for them. And human beings long to believe that there might be something on the other side of that. And you know what? Even the most skeptical of us, when we lose a loved one, we really want there to be something on the other side. That was the answer author Jeanette Winterston gave last weekend when she was interviewed on Weekend Edition Sunday, in response to host Aisha Roscoe asking her, "Why do you think we are drawn to ghost stories, not only in fiction, but like in our lives?" The interview caught my ear, not because I'm all that interested in reading ghost stories, though I've read a few, but because I was already planning this sermon about the barrier or lack thereof between the living and the dead, a common topic of interest and engagement in various cultures this time of year. This week just past was a jumble of holy days and sacred times. In the Christian calendar, November 1st is All Saints' Day, celebrating all the saints of Christianity, and November 2nd is All Souls' Day, given over to commemorating all Christians who have died before us. In Mexico and wherever Mexicans live, November 2nd is Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, a day for communing with and celebrating loved ones who have died. Similar celebrations are held in other cultures around the globe. In the Celtic tradition of pre-Christian British Isles, and for many practitioners of earth-centered religion still today, November 1st is Samhain, the end and beginning of the year, the end of the harvest, the beginning of winter, and it is a time when the veil between the living and the dead is thought to be at its thinnest. This confluence and conflation of sacred times and beliefs, Christian and pre-Christian and other than Christian, happens over and over throughout the calendar year for reasons ranging from imperialism to the inherent human impulse to address more or less universal questions and mysteries of life. In the United States, in the 21st century, as in the last half of the 20th century, the night before All Saints' Day, All Hallows' Eve, or Halloween, gets the most play. Ghost and skeleton costumes are the remnant nods toward the age-old focus on the dead, but candy and increasingly adult beverages reign supreme. Still, Mexicans, the Celts, and other northern peoples of old are and were on to something important, paying attention to the dying of vegetation as one part of the eternal cycle of life, and using that season of dying vegetation and waning light as a time to recognize that death is but one part of the cycle of human life, too. Think of it as sort of an opportunistic object lesson. Seed to seedling, flower to fruit, fruit into decay, decay eventually into nutrient-rich soil as home, even in winter, to seeds and bulbs and roots from which green vegetation will again spring. So too, germination, gestation, birth, growth, the fullness of life, decline, and death, each in its time for we humans. For some of the more scientific among us, the metaphor might stretch a bit past breaking point. After all, mostly our bodies are not returned to the earth, allowed to decay and nourish new life, even if our burial rituals say that is so. And many, perhaps most of us, don't believe that death is anything other than final, not simply a fallow time after which new shoots will emerge, but an end to our existence, full stop. That's what I believe. Or rather, I believe that's all we can be sure of, that we die and cease to exist as our bodily selves. Still, the metaphor works to a point, and more to the point, the traditions and rituals of people who celebrate or once celebrated All Souls, Dia de los Muertos, and Samhain meet a real human need, or at least desire. The desire to break through the barrier between the living and the dead. I agree with Jeanette Winterson, whom I quoted at the start, that breaking that barrier is what we desire in our hearts, no matter what we believe happens at death in our scientific minds. Even the most skeptical of us, when we lose a loved one, we really want there to be something on the other side. Not heaven, perhaps, not a parallel existence that mirrors this one, only without all the bad stuff, not reincarnation, except for those of us who do believe in reincarnation, but something other than nothing. For love is strong as death. Many waters cannot quench love. Flood cannot drown it. A couple months ago, David told me he'd worked out this Sunday as the date Mike Daly was available to play for worship, and he showed me the text of the anthem Mike and the choir would perform. Perfect, I said, just right for All Souls. Not All Souls, David said. It's from the Song of Solomon. It's a love song. Exactly, I said, All Souls. What better time of year for stories of enduring love, for love stories, than these waning days of October and waxing days of November that so many different people through the ages and still today tell us are all about tending to our relationships with loved ones no longer living on the earthly plane of existence. This is love work, of course, that we can and do undertake any time of the year. But autumn here in the Northern Hemisphere, because of dying vegetation and the waning of light, seem especially suited to it. Whether on All Souls or Day of the Dead or Samhain or a bit later at Thanksgiving tables, we tell stories, love stories of people on the other side of the barrier. Some of the love stories we might call ghost stories, stories in which we communicate with loved ones now past, telling them how much we miss them, introducing new members to the family to them through the sharing of photo albums or plates of favorite food or the retelling of familiar family stories. And they, the ones who have died, might communicate with us, as in any good ghost story. Chickasaw novelist, essayist, and environmentalist Linda Hogan wrote, "Suddenly all my ancestors are behind me. Be still, they say. Watch and listen. You are the result of the love of thousands." English poet Frances Bellerby wrote of a no longer living love whose absent presence calms fears despite the silence of their companionship. And Catholic writer Mitch Finley in our opening declares, "Those who have gone before us are still with us." We might not hear the real familiar voices speaking to us from beyond this life, though some have. But we have known them so well most of our family members and friends who have died. We have known them so well we can hear them in our hearts, if not in our ears. I love you. I'm proud of you. What did you think of that World Series? Remember the fun we had when we did this chore together? Those were some of my favorite times with you. What a great parent you are. I'm with you as you face this new challenge as surely as though I were there beside you, holding your hand, and I'll be there lifting a glass to the outcome, whatever it might be. In the opening words, Mitch Finley also declared, we're all in this together, all of us. Because he was writing of the communion of saints, he meant, I think, that the living and the dead are all in a common cloud of humanity. I think he meant what Bill and Jeff Keane illustrated in the cartoon on the front of the order of service, that living generations are never really celebrated from the generations not yet living and those no longer living. Understanding humanity as an unbroken chain stretching backward and forward has profound implications for the ways we live the days given to us. We talk about that from time to time, about the gifts and the problems we inherit, about the gifts and the problems we will pass on. I hear something else in Mr. Finley's words today. As I reflect on all the death in and around our church this past half year or so, Margaret Hall, Joe Rice, and Kathy McCrae, parents, children, siblings, and friends of congregation members. As I reflect on all the death in and around our congregation recently, I hear a different meaning in the assertion we're all in this together, all of us. If we widen the circle of time to a year, 2 years, a dozen, 20, the roll call of people each of us have loved and lost to death grows longer and longer. We, the living, are all in this state of perpetual grief and mourning together. Sometimes our grief is new and raw. Sometimes it is familiar and well-aged, softened perhaps and faded, but no less potent for it. This fellowship of mourners isn't one any one of us would choose, but for one thing. It is proof that we have loved. Memorial services and funerals serve to start us on our lifetime of living without the physical presence of the one who has recently died. But such services are fleeting, and more than that, in our shock and bewilderment, our heads and our hearts often cannot allow the ancient wisdom of such rites to sink into our being. Whatever any one of us might believe or not about ghosts and spirits and the thinning of the veil between life and death, it is good to have a season, the waning days of October and the waxing days of November, set aside to consider that perhaps there is a truth beyond fact, spoken by those who have told us, those who have died have never, never left. And that once you buy the farm, you still live on the farm. And what has once been so interwoven cannot be raveled, nor the gift ungiven. And love is strong as death. In other words, to be reminded in the end not so much of the continuity of life, but of the continuity of love. Amen. Please rise in body or in spirit for our closing hymn, number 105, From Age to Age. From ghoulies and ghosties and long-leggedy beasties and things that go bump in the night, good Lord, deliver us. And unto grannies and uncles, departed siblings and friends, and things that cast love day and night, good Spirit, deliver us. Amen.